See, we were doing user defined data types, and we have already discussed non-composite, and there we discussed enumerated, and we also discussed pointers. Today we will discuss composite data types, and out of this we will discuss only record type at the moment. There are the like classes and objects, which is object-oriented programming, and sets. So for the P1, P3, paper 3, data representation topic, we'll be discussing only these two and this one. So now let's see what is a record type. A record type is useful and is the most useful and widely used data types, user-defined data types, as it allows programmers to have different attributes in the same data type. So there are many situations occurs while we are coding as programmers that we have to collect many pieces of information called attributes of an object. So if we are not using record type, what happens then? We have to create many structures like variables or arrays. So record data type is a data type that contains a fixed number of attributes, and these will be of different types. As I mentioned earlier, in non-composite data types, we use some constant values which have no data types. Whereas in composite data types, I mentioned that we'll be using some built-in, we'll use some built-in data types to create this user-defined data type. And we can also use some a non-composite data type also to create a user-defined type record type. If you go back and see our first lesson about user-defined types, you will be able to see which scenarios we'll see that where we might need a record type. Like if we are collecting information about students, a lot many information like their complete profile is to be created, like student ID, their name, father name, address, contact, number, date of birth, class, section, status, and blah, blah, blah. There might be many pieces of information that we might want to create and want to store it in a file. So if we do not do record type, what you might be doing is like either you would be doing this declare. If you want to just store one student, you would be create variables, or if you want to store many students, then you might be doing this declare SDID 1 2000 array of numbers, declare SD first name, 1 2000 array of string, declare sg date of birth 1 2000 array of date, and many more. Depends of what type of database you want to create or the file you want to maintain. So this is not easy. One, you have to create so many arrays. Two, you will have to code this, and the code will become complex. So there is a solution that many programming languages provide us, that we can create a user-defined type known as record type. It is a very interesting way of collecting our data. So wherever you see collections of data, you can do this. For example, if I want to create the above, I want to collect above data about many students or one student, whatever the scenario is, I can create like this type student. I'm creating a student data type. In that, I can have built-in data types to create those. Like I will have an attribute for declare ID as number, declare fname as string, declare date of birth as date. So these three are built-in data types that we did not see in enumerated data type. And let me create a non-composite data type also here. In pseudocode, we write it like this: declare, let's suppose I want to say class. I discussed this in my last lesson. Declare class as A2, A1, 11, 10, and 9. Maybe I can have many more built-in data types and enumerated data types over here. And I can create a section enumerated data type so that we can assign different sections to a student if I want to have like this. And we discussed in greater detail about enumerated data type in the last lesson and type. This is it. So if an examiner mentions us that create a record type, and the examiner will be giving us some pieces of information like this. So from there we are supposed to create a record type like this. Now in VB, how we will do it, let me show you by coding it. Okay, in Visual Basic, when we want to create a data type, a user-defined data type, like we created enumerated data type in the last lesson, we created in the global area. We'll also do this over here, that first of all, I'll create the structure student, and I'll have all those attributes that I want this structure to store, and later on we'll create variables using this structure. Dim ID as integer, dim fname as string, dim date of birth as date. And for the enumerated data type, what I have to do is I have to create outside that class type. So I'll say outside here enum class, and the classes I want is A1, A2, 11, 10, and 9. Inside this, let me give it as equals to 1. So this will become 2, this is 3, 4, and 5. Likewise, these are coded automatically. Now here I will create a variable of that this enumerated data type. I will say dim st class, st class as class type. So this is how we create st class sorry n type is missing from here. What's the problem? Nm class and nm. Okay, because it was not there, that was because of this reason it was showing some errors. Okay, the class is actually a reserved word. I cannot use it for my declaration of enumerated data type. I may say student class. Okay. Now as here I'll use student class. I just missed out the recording, so I'm explaining it from now again. So the above structure that I've just created, the student record type, user defined type. Now I can create a variable or an array like this. Declare my student list of student type, the user defined type that I've just created. And once this list is created, I can actually this is just one single variable. It is not array. I'll show you how I'll make an array. So when I say my list, my student list dot, it will give me all those attributes over here as listed down to assign some values. Like my list, what do we have up there? My list ID, and I'll assign something, and then my student dot f name, I'll assign some name to it. Then my list dot date of birth, and I'll assign some date. And likewise my list dot class. So here the list will be provided, and I'll choose one of the options from there, like A1. Now how I will do this in VB code? Let me declare a variable over here, dim my student list. This is for just one student, as student. Now when I will be assigning value to this student, so when I say my student list dot, you see all those attributes are accessible here. Date of birth, F name, ID, student class, and all that stuff. So one by one, I can assign values. Like first of all, I say ID is equals to 1. And again, let me just copy paste this. और फिर हम उसको changes कर लेंगे. My student ID के बाद I'll say my student dot first name, and I'll give the name of the student like Ahmed, and for date of birth, I'll give some date like 1/1/2020 or 2002, for example, and the last one is ST class. So when I say ST class and I just come click this and I see, you see all those classes are available, A1. So by doing this, one thing is I'm creating one structure. So my whole student information is stored in just one structure over here. Let me just run this code and show you that where is this structure. Okay, I think यहाँ पे ठीक रहेगा. Let me
सर
just hold on a minute.
सर आपने वो क्या किया आखिरी वाले में?
ये वाले में, ये वाला हसन,
हाँ जी ये वाला, ये आखिरी लाइन है.
हसन आपको वो याद नहीं, हमने लास्ट A1 के अंदर मैंने स्टूडेंट से कहा था कि कंसोल कलर्स करो, तो वहां पे इस तरह का आता नहीं था. जैसे ये देखो ना, कंसोल डॉट बैकग्राउंड कलर is equals to all automatically आ रहा है black, blue, cyan. So how come they have put this black, blue, cyan, dark blue, dark cyan? This is what they have done. I am doing the enumerated data type. They have created an enumerated data type of background. So when I assign background color, so these options are already there. So the colors are already available, and that the same thing I've done over here, that I've created a student class in which we have only these options. So when I've created a variable in this class structure के अंदर student class का st class type का, तो जब मैं my student variable, जो variable भी बनाया मैंने, ये variable किस type का बनाया, student का. ये student कहाँ है, ये structure बना हुआ है उसका. इस student की क्या attributes हैं, ये attributes हैं. 3 built-in data types हैं और एक यूजर डिफाइंड एनिमेटेड डेटा टाइप का वेरिएबल मैंने बनाया, एट्रीब्यूट. सो इन चीज़ों, जब भी हम कोई वेरिएबल बनाएंगे माय स्टूडेंट टाइप का, तो उसके अंदर ये एट्रीब्यूट्स होंगे. लेट मी शो यू. जब मैं ये स्टूडेंट माय स्टूडेंट लिस्ट क्रिएट कर रहा हूँ, माय स्टूडेंट लिस्ट का वेरिएबल बना रहा हूँ, तो ये एक स्ट्रक्चर बन रहा है. वो स्ट्रक्चर के अंदर 4 बॉक्सेस बन रहे हैं. पहले बॉक्स में आईडी आएगी, दूसरे बॉक्स में उसका एफ नेम आएगा, तीसरे बॉक्स में उसका क्या आ रहा है जी, तीसरे बॉक्स में डेट ऑफ बर्थ, और फोर्थ में उसका एसटी क्लास आ रहा है. अब मैं सिर्फ इस ऑब्जेक्ट को हैंडल कर रहा हूँ, ये ऑटोमेटिकली हैंडल हो जाएंगे. जब मैं इस ऑब्जेक्ट को फाइल में स्टोर करूंगा तो चारों के चारों स्टोर हो जाएंगे. समझ आई बात की. मुझे लहदा एक पीस को स्टोर कराने की या रिट्रीव करनी, जब भी मैं फाइल से उठाऊंगा तो ये पूरा स्ट्रक्चर ही वहां से आ जाएगा, बजाय कि एक एक पीस ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन को स्टोर करूं. पहले हम क्या कर रहे थे कि हम वेरिएबल्स को हैंडल कर रहे थे, सिंगल सिंगल वेरिएबल को या एरे के सिंगल सिंगल एलिमेंट को. अब हम पूरे स्ट्रक्चर को हैंडल करेंगे, इनसाइड चारों ऑटोमेटिकली हैंडल हो जाएंगे. दिस इज द बेनिफिट ऑफ क्रिएटिंग रिकॉर्ड टाइप. ना लेट मी शो यू कि ये अभी हम कंप्यूटर में अगर इसको रन करके देखें तो किस तरह से स्टोर हो रहा है. ठीक है. सो आई जस्ट पुट अ ब्रेक ओवर हेयर. लेट मी पुट अ ब्रेक पॉइंट. यहाँ पे मैं एक ब्रेक पॉइंट लगा देता हूँ. Why it is not putting a break point over here? चलो स्टेप पे नहीं कर लेते फिर F11. ओके, कंसोल नजर आ रही है आपको साथ में ब्लैक? मुझे जरा बताएं इस वक्त कौन सी स्क्रीन नजर आ रही है मेरी?
यस सर।
कंसोल नजर आ रहा है सर।
पूरी कंसोल भी
वीबी भी नजर आ रहा है
और कंसोल
console
भी
भी।
नजर आ रही है, ठीक है, ओके। नाउ लेट मी कम हियर इन द debug and create a variable watch window so that I could put my student, जो वेरिएबल हमने बनाया है my student टाइप का, my student list, ठीक है, ओके, my student list, okay. So now what happens, look at what happens now. F11, so you see these four instructions got executed, and what happened to my student list structure? So you see that one student is containing these attributes information. So actually now what I have to do is I have to handle only this. Automatically all this data will be fetched and stored, especially when I'm storing in files. Now let's take another example. If I want to create an array of 9 students, of 9 students or 10 students, so and I want to assign them some dummy values, so I can run a loop like this, a blank value over here, and this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a loop for index 0 to,
तो ये इसके ऊपर नहीं है?
sorry,
ओके
अभी देखें आप, and I'll put this over here and I'll put index inside this. So now I'm creating an array of my whole class. पहले सिर्फ मैंने एक स्टूडेंट का वेरिएबल बनाया था, अब मैं 10 स्टूडेंट्स के वेरिएबल्स बना रहा हूँ. So this technique is known as creating a structure. So if I put a breakpoint over here and I run this code, so if we come over here and let me just create the list again, my student list, and if I click this, you see that there are automatically 10 structures are created, and each structure is containing 4 attributes: date of birth, first name, ID, and student class. Likewise, last, date of birth, first name, ID, and class. Otherwise, what I was doing, I was handling each and everything individually when I was creating simple arrays. अगर मैंने यहाँ पे arrays बनाई होती तो मुझे हर array का अलग-अलग उसको कोड को हैंडल करना पड़ता. मुझे let me go up. If I would have created excuse me, if I would have created array for ID, array for name, array for date of birth, array for class, I I would have to create multiple loops to actually initialize that. Now by running this simple code, what I'm doing is I'm initializing my whole structure. This loop is doing what? It is initializing uh, the whole structure with a simple loop, and this thing over here is known as dot notation. So this is a record type. In exam, whenever you you see a question of record type, you have to find out only this, that examiner is asking me or giving me what information. Normally, whenever a question comes, examiner do mention that create a record type for following structure or record, and with these, yeah, for following attributes, or for following objects with these attributes. I'll show you in a while one or two past paper questions, so then we'll have a good idea of question that come in. For example, I want to write a program that stores info of an employee of employees of, let's suppose, many employees. For this, arrays can be created. Programmer uses record type for following pieces of info of employee to store. 1. Employee ID. 2. Employee full name. 3. Date of joining. Date of joining. What has happened? Okay. 4. Full-time part-time status. Branches: Lahore, Karachi, Faisalabad, Islamabad, Multan. So before I write the solution, would you please like to try out?
सर मुझे आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही.
Okay, जी.
आपको नजर नहीं आ रहा सर ने अपना माइक म्यूट किया हुआ?
Okay, come on. Now,
बंगश आपकी भी आवाज
come
नहीं आ
on,
रही.
come on, stop it. Recording हो रही है यार. Okay, जी. Employee, sorry. We have to create a record type. And here I'll use variables like declare, m, id as, suppose, number, declare m name as string, declare m date of joining as date, declare status as boolean logical boolean, and declare branch as, let's make it short, although in exam you will do it as the examiner says. So Lahore, keep it in small letters, Karachi, and Faisal Abad, and then Islamabad. And Multan. Let me skip Multan. And then we have here n type. And before I declare a variable for this type of there's I've just made a mistake over here. Let me correct it. Our question was employee. So I have to write here. I had to write here record employee. So before I create a variable or an array of employee structure, you try it out, then I'll give you a solution. So the solution for this question, how to declare a variable employee type, I'll just say declare em list. This will be given by the examiner as an array of 1 to, let's suppose, 1000 employees, array of employee, and then to initialize each and everything, or examiner asks to assign some values to some variables, arrays, locations, kind of question could come. For example, I say emp list 1 dot emp id is equals to 1, emp list 1, emp list 1 dot emp name, whatever variables used upside. I just forgot कि मैंने क्या लिखा हुआ है. Emp name Ahmed, emp list 1 dot emp date of joining 1/1/2020, for example, and emp list 1 dot status is equal to is assigned status is assigned yes. Let's suppose we assume that full time is yes, and emp list 1 dot branch is equals to Lahore. Even we can write like this, branch dot Lahore. Both are acceptable. Now let me do this on PB. So let me share the whole screen and show you how this is going to be solved as a VB code. Now believe me, this is it. There's nothing more than this. So instead of student, let me just recode it. I say employee and dim emp id as integer and emp name. If you have laptops and you're working on laptops, you can do along me. Emp date of joining and what else we had? Emp status, I think, as boolean, and the last for that I have to create emp branch, or I can just create with the word branch, and here I'll have Lahore, Karachi, Faisalabad and Islamabad. And here I'll create a variable of branch type, dem m branch as branch. So we have created a record type of employee, a user defined type, an enumerated data type, and is this is used here in as non-composite data type attribute. And now if I want to create my list of employees, list of m my emp list, so that I have to change very less things over here. And if I want to have 1000 employees, for example, I'll say over here employee. I'm creating a list of employee type, and then I'll run the loop, and same thing I will do as I were doing for my students. Only I have to change over here some attributes in the name, emp my list, index as emp id. If examiner asks me to initialize all as some dummy values, so I have to do something like this: emp list name and my emp list index. I don't know what is over here as emp name. Okay, emp name, and then a lot of labor work we have to do still, but not as much as we had to do for arrays. Emp list, I think emp date of birth, or what it is, dot emp date of joining, and the last is emp status, I think, emp branch, emp branch date of joining तो ये हो गई, emp branch emp हो गया वो branch, or let me just do this, branch, for example, Faisalabad as null, and then last one is my emp status, emp list index dot status dot where is status? Here it is equals to, for example, yes, or whatever. चलो yes ही रहने देते हैं. False. So you see, kind of a question, similar question would always come in exam, that you need to understand that whenever we are collecting some information and storing, instead of arrays, we can create a user-defined type in multiple user-defined types. One is enumerated, the other is record type, and in the record type, we have used some built-in data types for attributes, and one attribute was created from an enumerated data type, and then we initialized the array created of employee type like this. And this is a must question in exam, where you would be initializing some values with some dummy values. This is a must question in exam. Must question. What? Initialize. Maybe you are initialized to you have to initialize the record. Maybe you will be asked to initialize an object or something in classes, object programming OOP में. तो ये क्वेश्चन आपको 3 से 4 मार्क का मस्ट एग्जाम में आएगा, तो don't miss it out. And this is maximum that you will see in record types. Now let me show you some past paper questions. Here exam is saying data types can be defined in programming languages. The data type student record is defined by the code. And this is what the structure has been created by the examiner. Declare student ID, declare student first name, declare student surname, declare student date of birth, and student scores as an array of 1 to 10 of string. So there is a array also within the structure that we did not see in our explanation. Now we can see this, that arrays can also be created in student record types. Now, the first question examiner says here is a variable college students is declared. Declare college student as declared. It is already done. Now, examiner says write a pseudocode statement to assign 6539 to the student ID of college student. So please try to write the answer, and then I will write my. Okay, now I will write the answer. So answer is college student. Sorry, examiner says write a pseudocode statement to assign 6539 to the student ID. So student college dot student ID 6539. That's it. So you get 1 mark for this. And the next question, the type definition for student record is changed. Student can take 6 courses from computer science, engineering, science, maths, physics, chemistry, music, drama, and English language. Rewrite 1 line from the type definition of student record to implement the change. So what do you think the question is about now?
Sir, student course के
एक
अंदर
नई
जो
बनानी है
है वो 1:10 को 1:5 नहीं कर देंगे.
What concept the examiner is asking about?
NM
Sir,
करे.
decreasing the array of student course.
Yeah, instead of creating an array of student codes, the examiner wants us to create a non-composite data type. So instead of creating an array over here, sorry, instead of let me do it again. Instead, थोड़ा सा ये move हो गया. Instead of making this as an array, the examiner wants us to make it an limited data type. So simply I will do over here, I'll say declare student course, and in that I will list all those constant items which are given over here. Computer science, engineering, and all these. So you put them in the order given. So here we have created an enumerated data type.